David Brewster here with new Brewster's Millions of Rants, and this is the Guitarist of Megadeth, and I've had some requests to feature more music from various guitarists that have worked with Megadeth over the years, and that prompted me to make this episode, which is really a celebration not only of the band, but also all the phenomenal guitarists that have worked with Megadeth over the years, and there's a ton of them. And really, when you think of certain artists or bands in rock, hard rock, or metal, think of like Ozzy Osbourne, David Lee Roth, Whitesnake, these like creative breeding grounds for great musicians. And definitely Megadeth's the same. There's some great guitarists that have worked with this band over the years. And here's a timeline kind of breaking down some of these great players. Aside from the guitarists that actually joined the band, like Marty Friedman and Chris Poland and some of those players, there are other guitarists that have worked, kind of behind the scenes or, on tour with the group. Just as a reminder, Kerry actually toured with Megadeth back in 1984, but he wouldn't commit to the band because he was still committed to Slayer. Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols actually played the solo from Megadeth's cover of Anarchy in the UK. That's Steve Jones, playing that guitar solo. I always thought that was cool. And then most recently, Teemu Mäntysaari actually is filling in for Kiko Loureiro. And, Teemo's actually a great guitarist too. So there's just this, cloud of great guitar work, surrounding Megadeth's music. So this episode is actually going to feature actual music and some licks from different guitarists that have worked with Megadeth. And, I'm not going to be able to hit everybody because there is kind of a long list of players. But I did seek out and found some really cool ideas, from certain guitarists that have worked with this band. And first up's Dave Mustaine, but anyway, here we go. First up's Dave Mustaine, the legendary frontman and guitarist at Megadeth, and just as a reminder, he was originally the lead guitarist in Metallica before he got kicked out, and then formed Megadeth to kind of challenge Metallica. And this first idea, this is really just a rolling kind of pull-off phrase, and it moves up chromatically, and it's something like this. It's really frantic and crammed, like this. One more time. So he's kind of flirting with this stretch hybrid pentatonic scale, and Dave does seem fond of this particular scale like this. One more time right there. So a stretch hybrid pentatonic, and you can see we're grabbing this. That A, G, and E, and then we're grabbing the unison of that E right there, and then that E, D to B right there. Grab the flat 5, and this little chromatic move there starting on E, the same thing on B, and then G to E at the end, like that. And that's kind of what Dave's grabbing to do this. He's grabbing that E, D, B, and then rolling over to G on the G string. Like that. And it's really hard to keep it clean, and you want to keep that lick clean, and you don't want to bar your index finger and just roll it like that. You don't want to do that because that's going to make it really noisy. You have to mute, especially when you do the roll of that G note. So you're kind of rolling and lifting that finger up, each time you start it again. Like that. And I just kind of ended on that high C way up there. Or I'm sorry, that's a B flat way up there. But like that. And then... It's a frantic cram lick, and definitely a signature lick from Dave Mustaine. Up next is Chris Poland, and I actually met Chris at the Summer NAMM back in 2017 in Nashville, and I actually shot footage of him playing, and that's where the lick we're going to look at. Actually, there is video footage for this lick. No way. I also met Dave Mustaine at a Summer NAMM. That was like 20 years ago at the Jackson booth, and he signed an autograph, and I talked to him back then. But here's a lick from Chris, and this crammed kind of B hybrid pentatonic idea like this. time. So it's just crammed in there, and it's B. It basically starts with B minor, kind of the B blues scale right here. And then by the time he ends it, he actually starts targeting D sharp. So it kind of turns it into like the B dominant pentatonic scale. So it starts here and ends up there. So really slow, he's grabbing this D note, starts it like that, and that's where he starts doing this chromatic kind of walk up right there. And the way he climbs up is really interesting. Notice he's not using his pinky in there, so he's fretting everything like that. I am using my pinky, so I'm performing it slightly different than the way he did. One more time, real slow. And it definitely has a flow to it. You just have to work on it until you start to get it and see it. That's just crammed in there. Very tough lick for sure. Next up's the mighty Marty Friedman, and this idea actually came from his exotic metal guitar, video and book. And I recently picked this up, the kind of revamped version from Hal Leonard. And this is actually example 15, from that instructional method. And it's in C minor, and it's something like this. One more time there. So we're in C minor, and he's basically playing the C minor arpeggio, and he's doing this shape right here. Your C, E flat, and G right there for C minor. But he's doing this. And I really like what he's doing here, because he's targeting the fifth, that G note to start with, like that, and he's doing those double, pull-offs. Like that. Then he grabs the raised fifth, right? G sharp. And then it's the flat five, G flat. So really slow, it's a little bit slower. So actually in the video he was breaking down how he picked that, and he did pick it a lot differently than how I just demonstrated it there. He actually started it with an upstroke and then 2 downstroke sweeps for the additional notes that followed. So an upstroke and then a pull off and then downstroke, downstroke, like this. So up, down, down. And then continue that up, down, down, up, and down. I actually play that a lot differently than that. I don't start with the upstroke. I just kind of pick it my way. And definitely he might frown because I'm not doing those sweeps and I'm not starting with the upstroke, but you could try it both ways. Start with an upstroke and then start with a downstroke. Last but not least is Kiko Loureiro, and definitely a dynamite, Brazilian, shred, and flamenco guitar master. And he's been working with Megadeth since around 2015. He's on Dystopia. Check out Conquer or Die if you want to hear Kiko just completely tear it up. And this lick actually came from his website. And it's this mirrored, octave-linked blues scale It's like a B blues scale idea. It's really cool. It kind of sounds familiar, but it didn't have any indication as far as where this lick was used. But it does sound familiar, so it's got to be used somewhere out there. But it's like this. One more time. So it's B blues scale, but he's not using this. More like traditional fingering, he's doing it back here like this. So grab this, A and B, and you kind of keep going back to that lower B note as you kind of exchange notes on the A right there. Finger, spread right there. So there's the first octave right there. And right there, go up another octave and do it again like this. Right there. So you got this. Right there, go up another octave right here. And when he does that, he actually kind of shifted into this B minor 7 arpeggio. The lick kept going. I just ended with that A to B bend at the end. So right there, really slow. Really hair-raising lick for sure, and Kiko is a master of hair-raising licks like that. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of Brewster's Millions of Rants with the Guitarist of Megadeth. Definitely, I'm a huge Megadeth fan. I've been a fan since I was a teenager in high school. And I'm kind of right on the fence. I know there's this big wall right between, Metallica and Megadeth, and the fans are bickering and fighting. That's been going on since, Mustaine was kicked out of Metallica. But for me, I like both bands. I'm kind of neutral. It's like, hey, I love Metallica, especially the early, like, Cliff Burton years, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. I mean, to me, that's Metallica. It's like, wow. And I definitely respect and like, everything after that, too. But then with Megadeth, they've had these changes, in the guitar department. They've had stylistic changes. And, each player has kind of brought a different, flavor or style or sound to Megadeth's music. Kind of like some of the bands I mentioned earlier, like Whitesnake and David Lee Roth and Ozzy. You could even extend that into like Frank Zappa or Miles Davis or Chick Corea or somebody. These musicians that work with phenomenal musicians, and it reshapes and kind of pushes their music in new directions. So even though Dave Mustaine's definitely very talented, there's no question the guitarist he's worked with has pushed him and inspired him and moved his music in different places. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.